just thought I'd throw some gunshots in there for just no reason at all. Hello and good morning, everybody. This is Wednesday, October 18th, and welcome to this week's episode of the Black Dad Chronicles. I am your host, Courtney McIntosh, and like this episode and every single episode, you can find me on iTunes or via the Apple Podcast app. I don't have an iPhone anymore, so I did not know what it was. I forgot what it was renamed, but it is the Apple Podcast app. Just go to the store and search The Black Dad Chronicles. It's important that you have the in front of it to differentiate. So in today's episode, I'm just going to get into a few things I've been reading. I'm going to touch on the NBA and the gruesome injury that happened opening night. A little bit of expectations for my Pistons and what my favorite genre of reading is. Okay, Grammar Police. So, last night, the NBA season started. The 2017-18 season started 2 weeks earlier than normal. And that is a push by the NBA to have less back-to-backs and less 4-game and 5-night scenarios. So we had 2 games last night. Both of them were excellent. The first game was the Cleveland Cavaliers versus the new-look Boston Celtics from Cleveland. The Cavaliers did win that game last night. I believe they won by 6. Why don't I have the scores pulled up? Let me pull up the scores. But the big news, the big news that came out of last night's game is the gruesome injury that happened to Gordon Hayward last night. Gordon Hayward, small forward for the Boston Celtics, newly signed from the Utah Jazz. 6 minutes into the game, he was doing a back cut, going to the basket for a lob and landed wrong, and his ankle snapped. And it was just that gruesome as you might think. I was not watching the game live. I was at work. However, during our family meal time, excuse me as I drink my tea. During our family meal time, I did go on Twitter and I did see all the hoopla about Gordon Hayward and his ankle. And, you know, in basketball, so there are probably 4 injuries I've seen in my entire life. The Cavaliers won that game, 102-99, by the way. There have been 4 injuries that I've seen, including last night, and in all of sports, that just turned my stomach. The first was when Sean Livingston blew his knee out. That was just, man, I still can't watch that video to this day. So if you guys don't remember, let me see, I'm 36, so I remember this draft class, because I believe it had the most draft picks straight out of high school out of any NBA draft class. That when Sean Livingston got drafted by the LA Clippers, when he was coming out of high school, Sean Livingston was billed as, you know, he was as good enough to be the next Magic Johnson. 6'7", handle like anybody, like nobody you've seen before. His passing, his vision, his court awareness, were all incredible. And he was getting compared to Magic Johnson. And I believe that was, let me look this up. I want to say that might have been, it wasn't his rookie season. Might have been his second season in the NBA. Let me see. Sean. Okay. So that was his, let me see. He was he was the first round pick in the 2004 draft. That was the year after the LeBron draft. So let me see. So that was 2004. So his injury was in 2007, as a matter of fact. February, it looks like February 26th. 2007. Wow. So his injury was he tore his ACL, PCL, MCL, and his lateral meniscus, and he also dislocated his patella, and dislocated his tibia femoral, which I believe is one of the bones in your leg. But that was a gruesome injury, and the video is up on YouTube. I can't watch it. That's the one injury that I just can't watch. The second one was Tyrell Dortch. Tyrell Dortch was a running back at Michigan State University, running back turned cornerback. So in 2003, 2001. 5 injuries. Because 2001, Tyrell Dortch went up against in a game against Wisconsin. After he went up to contest a pass. October 27th, 2001. Wow. So I kind of have issues talking about it because I remember seeing that on TV and how his leg was hanging off to the side. To me, that injury was more gruesome than the Willis McGahee injury, which another injury I saw live, and that was another one, because it's like his Willis McGahee's knee injury wasn't like weight bearing. It wasn't like an impact. He went, he got tackled, and I'm trying to, because I'm watching it play back in my head. I don't want to pull up the video, but it was gruesome too. But Tyrell Dortch went up to contest a pass against Wisconsin, came down, and it looked like his knee just exploded. And right after he landed, 2 of his teammates kind of like pounced on top of him to keep him from, popping up and seeing his leg. And I'm actually reading a article from 2003 on Michigan State's website, because he actually came back to play football. And it was his lower right leg. Basically, he said he broke his right tibia and fibula when he landed awkwardly. He said it didn't hurt, it just felt weird, but I panicked and started yelling when I saw my leg flopping out at a 90-degree angle. Whew. Sheesh. Man, that's, And then was the Kevin Ware injury. Kevin Ware, former basketball player at the University of Louisville. I remember that was a game. It wasn't in the tournament, I don't think. Sheesh, that was gross too, man. So Kevin Ware went up for a jump shot, and his leg his bone actually came through his leg. That was probably the worst one I've seen, just because I've seen the video and pictures of it, and it was just that bad. But I believe they were playing North Carolina in the game, and he went up to contest. He was contesting a jump shot, ran out to close out, and just landed wrong when he after the contest. Yep, against Kansas. Ooh. Yep, in the tournament. No, against Duke in the tournament. He went to contest a 3-pointer on Tyler Thornton from Duke, who used to play for Duke. And you could see just 9 seconds into the video, Thornton immediately saw what happened and turned his back and covered his face as he was walking back down the court. Then we got the infamous Paul George injury in the Team USA exhibition game a couple years ago, and then last night, and it was Gordon Hayward, like I said, on the back pick, on a cut into the basket. Kyrie Irving threw him a lob pass, and he just landed wrong. And that was it. So, that's a couple, gruesome injuries that we've seen in sports. And, thoughts and prayers go out to Gordon Hayward. Hopefully he can come back stronger, make a speedy and 100% recovery. We've seen players come back. Like I said, Tyler Dortch did come back to play football. Paul George came back and he returned to an all NBA level. Kevin Ware actually came back to play basketball for a little while. I believe that he was at looks like he was at Georgia State last time. Yep. This was 2015, a Sports Illustrated article. I remember this article too. This is by Thomas Lake, January 2015, and Sports Illustrated. He did come back to play basketball. We see Sean Livingston. It took a long road. It took Sean Livingston a long road to come back, but he came back. He's been a key contributor to 2 World Championship Golden State Warriors teams. So hopefully Gordon Hayward comes back stronger than ever. All right, next. So you guys know I'm a big comic book fan. I post pictures of my weekly pulls every week on my Instagram page, also on Facebook and Twitter. So there have been a few big events over the past year, and like Marvel and DC, which are the 2 top comic book companies in the world, they like to have these big events where basically the whole galaxy is at stake, So far this year, Marvel has had 2 of these events. Actually, they kind of had, you could technically say they've had 3 of these events. They've had Civil War 2, they've had the Inhumans versus X-Men storyline. They just finished up Secret Empire, which was really good. Whoever was writing this, Captain America Hydra stuff, I should know the writer because I read all the books. But that's just one thing I don't pay attention to when it comes to comic books. Sometimes I talk about comics to guys and they instantly go to the writers and the artists, and I'm like, I don't necessarily nerd out about the writers like that. I just like the books. I just like the storytelling. And I thought Secret Empire was great. Now, the one problem I have with Marvel Comics is, what I've told you guys in the past, is their universe is so convoluted when they have these big story arcs and everyone out of every book is involved. And if you don't get all the tie-ins, you'll miss something. Whereas DC, they have a big arc going on right now. First of all, since DC Comics launched Rebirth last June, it's been amazing, phenomenal, just all around great comics. I picked up some. I try, my goal was to, when I started, was to just get all the major players from DC. Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, Teen Titans, all those guys. But I found myself Green Arrow. I bought the first 23 of the Green Arrow series. I still have like 12 to 23 to read. I basically have like a stack of maybe 75 comic books that I still have to read. Because I like to, if I buy a bunch of them in order, if I buy them and I see that I'm not reading something but I'm still interested in it, I'll put them together and then I'll read them all at once. Which is kind of what I'm doing with Green Arrow. I'm kind of finishing up Aquaman like that. I just finished Spider-Man, Miles Morales, like that. I actually have issue 21 that I still need to read. So that's the way I read comic books. And so DC Rebirth from the beginning has been very good. If you asked me at the beginning of this year what I thought, in the 6 months, the best comic books have been Aquaman and Wonder Woman. And while I still feel like Aquaman is up there, and Aquaman is such a disrespected and underrated character. He doesn't just talk to fish people. He has a way more diverse skill set than that. But, he's only known, hey man, Aquaman, aren't you the guy that talks to fish? So right now, so we're counting down towards Doomsday Clock, which looks to be a DC tie-in with the Watchmen. And what DC is doing with Rebirth is they took their New 52, which was their prior reboot in 2011, and they merged it with the stuff pre New 52. So it all, instead of it being like its own separate thing, it all works together. But the key is, a lot of our heroes, 10 years have been missing. 10 years of time basically has been missing. So, throughout a lot of the Rebirth stories, they were trying to, particularly Superman and Batman, were trying to figure out where the time went. And Batman actually had a crossover with the Flash, a 4-issue crossover with the Flash called The Button. The first issue of Rebirth, if you guys are familiar with the Watchmen, Barry and Bruce found the comedian's Button, the comedian from the Watchmen, who in the movie was played by Jeffrey Dean Morgan. I'm sorry, Negan. Jeffrey Dean Morgan, who plays Negan on The Walking Dead. He played the comedian in Watchmen. So they found his button lodged into the walls of the Batcave. So they were studying it, trying to figure out where it came from, what it meant. It brought back the Reverse Flash. So it's a pretty good a little mini story, 4 issues, right? So then we get Doomsday Clock. Everything is headed towards Doomsday Clock, which is going to be the big DC arc to end the year, involving Superman. And one thing I can say about Superman is Superman's comics get a lot of flack because, Superman is basically such an overpowered character that it usually tends to lead to boring stories. But I can't say that this run of Superman has been boring. Superman has a family. So towards the end of the New 52 Superman run, we were introduced to another version of Clark Kent. And this Superman had a beard. He was flying around in the black suit. And then so when our New 52 Superman died, he felt like it was, time for him to come back and be public again. I'm getting a call. This is hey man, I'm podcasting.
So what you answer the phone for?
I don't know. You want to be on the podcast for a second?
No.
Oh, this is Meech, everybody, but hey man, I'll hit you back. Peace. Sorry for that brief interruption. So he decided to step out from the shadows and take, Superman's place. And it wasn't that he was technically taking Superman's place, because he was Superman. So come to find out, this Superman was the original Clark Kent Superman that we knew and that we all knew and loved. And it was the Superman that died at the hands of Doomsday. That's the Superman was. That's the best way I could put it to you guys. So another key element to the story of the first issue of Rebirth was Wally West. Now, pretty much for the entire late half of the 80s, all of the 90s, all of the 2000s, the Flash was Wally West. It wasn't Barry Allen. Barry Allen died in Crisis on Infinite Earths. And Wally West, who was, Kid Flash, he decided to graduate and take the Flash's mantle. Because, Barry basically sacrificed himself to save the world. So Wally was missing, and we didn't know when Wally was going to come back. But in the first issue of DC Rebirth, Wally is kind of like the glue, but nobody knows who he is. It's like he's been lost. He's been traveling through the Speed Force and has been lost to time, and nobody remembers who he is. He reached out to Batman. Batman didn't remember him. He ran by Superman. The Teen Titans didn't remember him. He finally found Barry, and just as he was about to give up hope, he's like, Barry, don't you remember me? And he's like, I don't remember you. Then he's like, wait a minute. How could I forget you? So Barry grabs his arm, and that brings Wally West into reality. You know what I'm saying? Out of the Speed Force, into reality. And they embraced, and it was like, man, Wally, Barry, together again. We get Wally West back. And look, man, I think Wally West is the better Flash. I mean, I like Barry Allen too, but I just think Wally West is the better. He's a cooler Flash. Okay, all right. So now I'm bringing it home. So right now there's a story arc going on, Dark Knight's Metal, and when you hear the title Dark Knights, Batman is going to be a key. So DC is running an arc right now called Dark Knight's Metal, and the way everything is being explained, like Batman died a few years ago, but really he didn't die. He was actually sent back to the beginning of time. So he was a caveman. So Bruce Wayne, the thing is, the key is Bruce Wayne has not necessarily lived many lives because he's not immortal, but there have been kind of like his ancestors, right? The ancestors of Bruce Wayne have kind of been key figures in history, but in the background, but there is they explain it really good. I'm not going to go through trying to explain it because I would have to run and go get the first issue, which I know it's, a few feet away from me. I don't want to do that though. I suggest you all pick up, Dark Knight's Metal for yourself. But Dark Knight's Metal 3 came out last week. So let me see. All in all, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. No, that's Flash. 9, and including today's books, 10. You have 10 books of Dark Knight's Metal and their tie-ins so far. And it's not like, and the reason why I enjoyed these tie-ins, because it's not like, Marvel, where they're having a big arc and every single book in the Marvel universe has like a little bits and pieces of the main story, and you have to read it to get all of the story. Like, these actually have specific tie-ins. Like, the first two were Dark Days, The Forge, and then Dark Days, The Casting. Dark Days, The Casting was first. Then you had Dark Days, The Forge, and they tell the original story. They give you the background and everything. Then you had Dark Knight's Metal number 1, You have a Teen Titans tie-in. You have a Nightwing tie-in. You have a Suicide Squad tie-in. And then you have Dark Knight's Metal number 2. Dark Knight's Batman the Red Death. And Dark Knight's Batman the Murder Machine. Then you also have Dark Knight's Metal the Dawnbreaker. So the background to the story is that for every universe world in the multiverse, there's also an alternate dark world. And basically the planets in the dark world, all the worlds in the dark world are basically set up to die, from the get-go. They're there, but they serve no purpose but to just, be destroyed. Let me see something. How many worlds in the DC multiverse? How many worlds in the DC multiverse? I'm asking Google here. For some reason, it's telling me that I'm offline when I'm connected to my Wi-Fi, which is, basically, in all these universes in the dark multiverse, Batman is trying to save his world from destruction, right? And it has all all the classic DC characters that you know and love. Like you got the Flash, you got Cyborg, you have, Superman, Green Lantern. So pretty much, what the premise is in each world, Bruce Wayne, Batman is trying to save the planet. So you got it's dark planet. So, for instance, take the Red Death, right? So you got Bruce Wayne, you got Batman trying to save his world, and his world is actually, let me see, Earth -52. So it starts off, Flash is running through Central City saying that we shouldn't be fighting. Oh, because he's pretty much, running. You find out he's running from Bruce Wayne because Batman steals all Flash's rogues' guns and is coming after Barry with him. Because basically, what Batman is trying to do is he's trying to steal the Speed Force from Barry Allen. And Flash is telling him that he can't give him the Speed Force. And the reason why Batman is trying to get the Speed Force from Flash is because he's lost, everybody who he's loved. And, Flash is telling him, I've lost everyone too. So basically, Batman explains every day I find myself getting older and slower, so I need it. Pretty much, Batman tricks the Flash. He freezes his leg with Captain Cold's cold gun, and he beats him up, ties him to this souped up Batmobile that he's kind of calculated with the designs for the cosmic treadmill, and he built it into the Batmobile. So basically, he straps Flash onto the Batmobile using the cosmic treadmill technology, and tries to steal the Speed Force from Flash. But what it does is it basically fuses Batman with the Speed Force, and he's also infused with the essence of Barry Allen. So then you have Red Death running through the streets of Gotham as the world is falling apart, trying to save everybody, and they call this Batman the Batman Who Laughs, and you're already going to be able to tell, it's going to be somehow Batman fused with the Joker. So that's how he gets Red Death. That's how he gets his power. Then in the Murder Machine, it takes place on Earth. Let me see what Earth this is. And they just like Earth negative 44. So pretty much all of Batman's rogues, they found out who Bruce Wayne was. They found out his identity, and they basically tortured and beat Alfred. And Bruce used that, and he basically like tortured himself by just continuously like rewatching the video. And the Justice League is telling him like it's not his fault. So he made he used Cyborg to create an AI of Alfred. So basically Alfred was, kind of like Jarvis is to Tony Stark, but he became sentient, start killing a bunch of Batman's rogues, and then he fused himself with Bruce. So Bruce is like a cyborg Alfred Batman hybrid, you know what I'm saying? So that's where the Murder Machine comes in. And then the Dawnbreaker, which was probably my least favorite book. I still liked it. It was basically the Dawnbreaker is the Green Lantern version of evil Bruce Wayne, where that night in Crime Alley when Joe Chill killed Bruce's parents as a kid, he wasn't mad or lonely, or he was just he was, but he was frustrated. And then as a kid, he showed no fear, so that's how the Ring found him in Crime Alley. But his willpower was so strong as a child that he was able to hack his ring basically, and his willpower overpowered the Green Lantern ring. So basically, he does what's called blackouts, and he has these creatures that live in the dark and they just kill everything. He even killed all of the Green Lanterns. He killed all of the Guardians from Oa. That's how that works. So these are just like evil versions of Bruce Wayne, somehow, infused with other members of the Justice League, you should say, or other characters. So today's issue was Dark Knight's The Drowned. So this is going to be some type of female Bruce Wayne Aquaman hybrid, probably, or maybe Mera, who's Aquaman's wife. But it's just been really enjoyable. But I think Dark Knight's Metal 3 was probably the single best comic book that I've read all year. And it's October 18th. The single best comic book that I've read all year. It's basically, I'm not going to give you all the plot. You can easily find it on Wikipedia. But it's fascinating. I suggest you go pick it up and read it. But at the end of the episode, it's a big twist, and we find out that while Batman wasn't the key, while Batman was the key, he wasn't the main key that these Dark Knights were looking for. It was actually Superman. And the way it was done was just like perfectly executed. It was a perfect twist. And like I said, it was just the best. It's the single best comic book issue that I've read all year. And I've been reading some good books this year. Like Animosity is one of my favorite books. That's a book from, it's not Image, it's from, hold on, I got my pull right here. So Animosity is from Aftershock Comics. So Animosity has been very, very good this year. Black, which was a 6-issue series, started on Indiegogo. And the premise of that book was the only people that had superpowers were black people. So that was the reason for slavery. That was the reason for Jim Crow and all that stuff. That was a really interesting book, and it was in black and white. It was really good, and I've heard that that's actually getting turned into a movie. So that's been good. Let me see. Animosity's been good. Reborn from Image was a really good story. But man, this Dark Knight's Metal, man, is just, I'm saving all, because what I usually do is, when I'm done with comic books, I hit up my homeboys to see if, hey, you want these books for your kids. Metal, I'm keeping. And I'm definitely buying the trade when it comes out. And I usually don't buy trade paperbacks just because I usually buy the single issues of the comics. So there's really no point in me having the trade paperbacks. And I don't want to wait till the trade paperbacks come out. But when Metal comes out in trade paperback form, I'm getting it. Because it's just been that awesome. But anyway, that gets into my favorite genre to read, and it's fiction. I try to read, all types of books. Like I just bought a couple books over the last 6 months. I've bought Black Privilege, which is Charlemagne's book. I bought a Michael Eric Dyson book. Let me see. What book is that? I bought Jay Williams' book, Life is Not an Accident, last year. And that's really good. I'm actually reading that. Jay Williams, former Duke basketball player and Chicago Bull, who he messed his leg up, and he, not just his leg, his body up, in a motorcycle accident after his rookie season, and basically ended his career. That's been a really good book. I bought Got to Give the People What They Want by Jalen Rose, The Black Presidency by Michael Eric Dyson, L.A. Sun, which is Roy Choi's book, came out 2 years ago. I bought Manhood Restored by Eric Mason. I bought The Reason for God by Timothy Keller. And my wife got me Stuart Scott's Every Day I Fight for Father's Day. And then I also picked up Yes Chef, which is Marcus Samuelsson, Chef Marcus Samuelsson, his book, which is really good. And I'm actually reading a bunch of these books all together, but nonfiction books don't hold my attention like fiction books do. Just because I like fantasy, man. I like being able to read a book and just getting lost in a world of adventure and excitement. And that's just how. So I try to read a bunch of all these books about Black Power and educate. Like the last book that I bought. The last nonfiction book that I actually read all the way through was the book of the month a couple months ago. It was sorry for the yawn. It was, gosh, I'm looking at the cover of the book, The Fire Next Time by James Baldwin, which I'm gonna read again because that was a great book. But I just really enjoy nonfiction, man, just because I like characters, I like fantasy, I like adventures, I like heroes. Like, one of my favorite book series as an adult has been Peter Cline's X series. So, sorry, I just been talking for like 2 minutes and didn't even realize I had paused the show. So I don't even know what the last thing y'all heard was. But anyway, whatever I'm gonna talk about, it's going to be my show. It's my show. So I'm going to talk about everything and anything that I want to talk about. So that's it. You're going to get content with, on fatherhood's going to be the backdrop, but you're going to get content on the NBA. You're going to get content on soccer. You're going to get comic book content. You're going to get food content. You know what I'm saying? Maybe I'll have one of my chef friends come on the show and we talk food, which I'm going to do that. I was, one of the things that was kind of like, not holding me back, but that was kind of taking my focus away was I was trying to start a food podcast and just trying to get the schematics out the way and logistics of it. I was trying to do too much. I was stretching myself too thin. So I'm just incorporating all of that into the Black Dad Chronicles. So you can find me wherever you find your podcasts. Apple Podcasts, Android, Google Play Music. You can find it. You can go to Pocket Cast, wherever you get your podcast from, except for SoundCloud, because I'm not paying extra money for SoundCloud to just be a content creator on SoundCloud. YouTube, where else? Spotify, iHeartRadio. Black Dad Chronicles is on iHeartRadio now. Where else? Everywhere you can find your podcast, man. You know what I'm saying? So check me out. If you have any ideas, if you got an idea, something you want to talk about, or if you want to come on the show, you can come on. You shoot me an email, blackdadcrying@gmail.com. And like I said, if y'all want to find me on Facebook, you can go to the Black Dad Chronicles Facebook page. You can follow me on Instagram at Black Dad Chronicles. Twitter, my Twitter handle is going to change, but as of right now, it is Mr. Courtney Mack. I think that's corny and lame, so I'm just going to change it. But yeah, that's it for this week. Here's the outro. Peace. And read a comic book, y'all. You won't regret it. Yo, this DC has been doing a wonderful job with their rebirth. Also, one Marvel comic book I wanted to tell y'all about: Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. If you got young girls, if you got young daughters at home, I got into the comic book because I wanted to show my daughters, a character that looked like them and was pretty cool. So, some Marvel comic, Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. I talked past the outro. But anyway, this has been Courtney for the Black Dad Chronicles, signing off. Peace.